Up next, it's our review of Spider-Man Homecoming.
Ooh, my spidey sense is tingling. Hey everyone, welcome back to Eye to Eye Disney Through Our Eyes. I'm Kyle.
And I'm Jessica.
And we're going to be talking about the greatest superhero to ever exist. No one can beat him. There is no contest, right?
Right.
You wouldn't even show my Spider-Man, and that's the quote right here on the back. I'm not saying you can't beat Spider-Man, but Spidey sense. Do you agree?
Sure.
You don't really care, do you?
Doesn't really affect my life.
It affects mine, because you know I was Spider-Man at one point in my life.
You keep believing that.
You didn't see me in the Spider-Man outfit at that Halloween party?
Well, I mean, I guess then I was Ernie.
You were Ernie that year?
Not that year, I was Batgirl.
I don't know. It was a long time ago. We're way too old for that.
So, Spider-Man.
Let's talk about Spider-Man Homecoming. So, if you have not seen this movie, do not watch past this point. This is your spoiler warning. So, like we've been doing with some recent reviews, we've been talking about it a little bit differently, not really going through the whole plot. We just want to talk about highlights that we liked and things we didn't like, questions. And a lot of the time it's fun to see it through your perspective, because especially when it comes to Marvel stuff, because
I'm always confused.
You don't really know what's going on. So why don't you start us off and say what's the first thing that you want to talk about from this movie?
I want to talk about why there's a lot of things.
Well, let's start with A.
Hang on, let's just go A, because A is going to get me to C. So A,
I already need a drink of water.
Why are we making another Spider-Man movie?
Okay.
B, no, that's rhetorical. Don't answer it.
Can they answer?
B, sure, in their heads. B, why is Spider-Man a different person? Like, different character, different man.
I'm getting a headache already.
And C, this is the real question. This is really you can answer it, okay?
Okay.
Why did we not talk about how he got his Spidey senses? Because if I was a nobody and I hadn't seen the 15 other Spider-Man movies prior to this, how would I have known that Spider-Man got bitten by the spider? Because there was literally this one little sentence that he tells Ned. I mean, just like a little blip on the radar.
So you do not want me to answer the first two questions?
I just want to talk about why Spider-Man, Peter... His name's still Peter, right?
Peter Parker. It's still. Did you not listen throughout any of the movie?
I did, but everything's so different. I'm confused. So, why did Peter Parker not... Like, why was that not elaborated on? I was expecting that to be a little more elaborated on, and then all of a sudden, wham bam, here's Spider-Man in his Spider-Man clothes, and I was like, whoa.
Well, this is actually kind of a good question, because this is something that a lot of people asked about people coming to see this movie for the first time. They didn't really get told the origin by this movie. However, what I think Sony was assuming, and Disney, since they are co-doing this movie together, I think that they assumed that unless you were living under a rock, you have not heard why Spider-Man, or how he got his powers.
I mean, I get that. I just think that it was a failure in the plot points, because we don't get to see Peter Parker as a normal human either.
And I disagree on that point, because me as a Spider-Man fan, we've seen it done two different ways twice now. The same story is told just in two different ways.
But this is Peter Parker as a high schooler.
Yes.
This is not Peter Parker as an adult like in the other movies.
Well, he's an adult in the first series, and then in the second series, he's like a high schooler for half a second, and then he's kind of in transition to college.
Right. But this movie is like all high school. So I would have liked... personally, to see a little bit more background so that I knew Peter Parker as not just Spider-Man, so that I could see why he liked Liz, or I could see why his friendship with Ned, came about, those kind of things. So, to me, that was a little meh.
Well, this is a good perspective. I know that nobody from Disney or Sony's watching this, but if you are, this is kind of an outsider perspective for Spider-Man. Maybe you should have delved a little bit more into the story. However, I thought it was done...
That's kind of a moot point now.
I know, but however, I thought it was done very well.
Yeah, I'm not saying the movie wasn't good. I'm just...
there's little hints there. He talks about Aunt May in one instance where he's talking to Ned saying, don't tell my aunt this because she's already been through enough.
Right.
And so we kind of, what does that mean?
That means that Ben died, and that was the other thing that's on my list of, that was crap.
Okay, what's crap about it?
So, here again, the plot development, the character development was really poor, in my opinion, in this. I know. Go ahead, shoot me, whatever. We don't get to learn anything about Peter Parker outside of Spider-Man. So we don't see the tragedy that he goes through with losing his uncle. We don't see the tragedy that goes through with having to live with his aunt and uncle. Like, we literally see nothing except, oh, I'm Spider-Man. Okay, congrats. Well, I'm Queen of England, apparently. So, like, I just don't understand how all of a sudden, all these bad things happen to this poor kid. And I mean, he's had a rough life. I mean, Aunt May and Uncle Ben, like, built a great world for, you know, a great life for him, but he still had a lot of tragedy, and we don't get to see that side of him. We don't get to see why having something like being Spider-Man is so important, because, you know, when you lose all the people that you love, it's important to have something that you can grip onto, and being Spider-Man was, like, his thing.
Yeah, well, let's take the whole you have an issue with the lack of a thorough backstory.
I have a issue with the lack of character development.
Ooh, I disagree with that.
That's cool.
Anyway,
but that's my opinion.
let's move that one to the side. We've made our point on that one. The Uncle Ben thing, though, I will have a little bit of an issue with, because I do feel like they missed a huge opportunity here. They didn't have to throw Uncle Ben in our face. I didn't think we necessarily had to see a flashback, but I think the moment that they missed in this movie for Uncle Ben to at least make some type of appearance is when Peter is under the rubble after the Vulture has collapsed the building on top of him, and he hears Tony's voice as opposed to Uncle Ben's voice.
Yeah.
They didn't have to show a face of an actor. All they had to do was have an older gentleman saying something to him similar-esque to what Tony was doing. And the impression that it gave me was that they were trying almost to replace Uncle Ben
with Tony. 100% agree.
And that, if I have one gripe for this movie, that is what it is. Is that not, I love Tony Stark being in this.
Of course, but
the fact that that moment was stolen from Uncle Ben, that I have an issue with. So I agree with you about they could have done a little bit more to help somebody like you learn the backstory a little bit.
I mean, not like me, because I know the backstory, but 30 years, you know, when people go and watch the movie, they'll be like, what the heck?
Well, maybe they will slowly tell the story over, hopefully, a trilogy of movies like they've done in the past. And you'll, piece by piece, see it be put together and show new snippets of this that'll tell kind of like the story for that second or third movie a little bit better because of those snippets you're seeing. You're just hearing mentions of, oh, I got bit by a spider. It's a long story. Aunt May's been through a lot. You know,
Ben died. Okay.
All right, what's the next thing on your list?
So, positive.
Positive, okay.
Ned. I freaking love Ned. He's like the best character ever. Hands down, like, top 5 characters for me of all time.
Really?
Ned was hysterical. Everything Ned said, I was like, man, I want to meet this kid.
Did you love when he dropped the Death
The
Star?
Legos! Oh my gosh! I felt like Ned. I was like, man, you just put together 30,000 pieces worth of Legos and you just dropped it.
So the instance she's talking about is when Peter sneaks back into his room thinking no one sees him. There's Ned waiting in his room. We've all saw it in the trailer. I mean, we knew it was coming, but it was still funny when you see that giant Lego piece, and that's like, it bothered me so much, you know, because I loved Legos as a kid, and when you see something like that, just...
That, or when he finally puts on the Spider-Man head, and here's Ned, and Ned's a big old boy, and you get this tiny little Spider-Man head and this big body. Oh my gosh, it was so funny.
So Ned is supposed to be this character, Ned Leeds, who has a bit of a history in the Spider-Man comics, from what I understand. I didn't read the comics, but I've done a lot of research. But he's an amalgamation of this other character called Gonky, which is like the sidekick, the guy in the chair is what he calls himself.
It's another comic relief guy.
Yes, so I really did like Ned in this movie. I didn't think I was going to, because he's taking that place of Harry Osborn, which is traditionally the best friend of Peter Parker.
Yes, but I didn't like Harry because Harry turned evil.
Well, he may not be evil in this world. He's there somewhere,
Ned better not be evil, because he's my favorite.
Well, baby, I hate to break it.
Don't ruin it! Don't ruin it! Ned is not evil.
Let me
Ned
just
is
say the goblins are not dead.
No!
Let me spill everywhere. I almost choked me to death.
I love Ned. Why would you do that?
That doesn't mean he's going to be evil in this one.
I didn't say bad things.
Hobgoblin! Anyway, let's move on. What else did you remember?
Those were my favorite things.
Well, is there anything else big from this movie that you want to talk about?
Liz.
Okay.
Let's talk about her. Yeah. So, I was a little disappointed in the love story aspect of this Spider-Man. Only because, like, to me, Ned replaced the romance portion of Star Wars.
This is Spider-Man.
Spider-Man. Pooh, it's late at night.
Oh my God.
So Ned was like, he was the comic relief. He was kind of that sidekick rather than Mary Jane or Emma
Wait,
Stone's
you thought
character.
they were supposed to be the comic relief as the romantic?
No, what I'm saying is you didn't need the romance because you had comedy.
Gotcha.
It's not making sense, but in my brain.
No, I get what you mean now.
So, like, you didn't need that. I didn't feel like, oh, I need a love story in this. But, hang on. But I did kind of wish that, again, plot development. We didn't even meet Liz until, halfway through the movie. And then all of a sudden, he's like, oh, I love you. What the heck? How are you going to love somebody and you only know them 2.5 seconds?
She was walking through the halls in the first time we see him going to school, which was like the first 10 minutes.
Oh, she was walking?
She was wearing a new top, remember?
Wow. And she was on the ladder.
Well, okay.
And they liked her. I'm just saying, like, congrats. That's great. But
it's a hard critic over here.
Us out here in the real world, sitting in movie land, in the chairs, we need some more plot development with Spider-Man and Liz.
Okay, so Liz in the comics is his first girlfriend. Liz Allen, in this movie, she's Liz Toombs. We find out later on, she is the daughter of Adrian Toombs, the Vulture, which was the biggest mind-blowing
That
reveal.
was the best.
That I didn't see coming at all. They hid that well in the trailers. Maybe some other people saw it. I had no clue. So I really liked that twist in it.
I honestly wish we could go back before we knew the twist and watch it again. Because figuring that out was like, boom.
Now that I'm looking back on it, though, there were some clear indications that you might have picked up on it, though, because he talks about taking care of his family, and you never hear Liz referred to as Miss Allen or Liz Allen. So let's talk about my other issue with this movie. Only 1 or 2 issues. Let's talk about MJ. Okay, where do I start with this one? I am a fan of changes for the right reasons. Mm-hmm. I'm not unopposed to things changing, even though I'm a very nostalgic guy and I like things to stay the same. She knows this better than anybody. But we find out that Michelle, who is kind of the quirky girl who kind of sits off to herself, I wouldn't say cool.
I liked her. She's different. She's nerdy. She's cool.
I wasn't really a fan. And that's what they probably want us to feel, honestly, is people like me who don't maybe necessarily like this interpretation of MJ right off the bat. They don't want us to like her, so that'll kind of build on it. So maybe they're doing a little psychology with us here. I don't know.
Maybe.
MJ is Mary Jane, who it should be. She is not Mary Jane. She is Michelle Johnson, I think, in this one. So MJ. Maybe this is just a plot device, a twist that they're going to throw at us at the end, and MJ, actually, the real MJ will show up. I don't know. She's supposed to be a redhead. She's supposed to be, this very, what most people would consider extraordinary, beautiful girl. Not that Zadania's not. No,
she is, yeah.
I'm just saying, like, I don't get it right now. And I'm not necessarily a fan, and I would love to be proven wrong. So those are my 2 things right there.
And I think, to be fair, the reason that I like her as MJ, if that's what they create her to be.
I've already got our rating system. Go ahead.
If that's what they rate her to be, is because I didn't like the MJ from the original. And I shouldn't say the original, but the first Spider-Man. She was annoying as heck.
We got spoiled by the second Spider-Man series with Gwen Stacy. I
loved Gwen.
She was perfect. Anyway, we were going to get off. This is not about the Amazing Spider-Man series.
I don't know what we're talking about, but it's something new with Ned.
Okay, so we talked about girlfriends.
Talk about Ned.
We've already talked about Ned.
I know, that's what I'm saying.
Okay. Well, let's talk a little bit about how you felt this fits into the bigger Marvel universe. Was it too much of all that stuff, or did you like how they put references to a lot of things in there?
I didn't like it.
Why didn't you?
I love Tony Stark. Like, I actually like Iron Man, that series, but I just thought it was stupid. I didn't see why there was a point. Like, I get the point that he's supposed to be an Avenger now. Congrats. Like, we don't need that in this movie. Make it in the Avengers movie. We don't need it in Spider-Man.
It in this movie if he's going to be part of the Avengers, which he is in...
Right, but we could make it in Avengers 5.0 or whatever. Like, we don't need it in The Amazing Spider-Man. Jeez. Spider-Man Homecoming.
Okay.
One day I'm going to know what movie we watched, but
it's not Star Wars.
It's true. I really enjoyed the movie. Like, really enjoyed the movie despite what I'm saying. But I just felt like there was all of this, like, random crud. Like,
okay,
Tony Stark and Pepper Whatever
Pepper
her
Potts.
name. That one.
So,
and
yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, it was just too much, and I didn't have enough of Peter Parker. And that's who I love. That's the only reason I care about Spider-Man is because of Peter Parker. I don't care about the villains. I don't care about anything else. But I love Peter, and I just didn't feel like I got enough of him.
It's interesting now. I'm really glad we're actually having this discussion because you and I basically are seeing a different movie.
100% different.
But I do agree with you that they were on the heavy side of incorporating it into the MCU.
Can you imagine how much, what's-his-face, that's Tony Stark, got paid to be in this movie?
Yeah.
Like, gazillions. And it was like, oh, let's put him in as many scenes as possible.
So, yeah. And so it's a good point. So someone not as big into the fandom as I am is a good perspective to have that we're seeing maybe a little too much of Tony, a little too much of the interconnectedness of the MCU. I think it was necessary to build the Marvel Cinematic Universe, honey. Bless your heart. Bless your heart. All the Iron Man movies, the Avenger movies, it's all one.
10-4. Go ahead.
It's all one. Surrounds us.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I liked it, but I think they could have pushed it back a little bit, which would have fixed the Uncle Ben problem of not replacing Tony with Ben. All right, one of the last things I want to talk about, because I think this, for me, was why I love this movie so much, was the villains. The big villain, and then the other villains in this. They set this universe up for Spider-Man, not just for the MCU, but for Spider-Man's world, wherever he lives, in the, the sphere.
We wouldn't know because they didn't do any good plot development.
Oh my gosh, you know what they did? So they set up, you just don't understand how much stuff they just set up. So first off, the main three villains that we see are the Vulture, Adrian Toomes, the Tinkerer, Phineas Mason, which was the nerdy guy.
Yes.
A different take on him, but I like it.
Yeah.
And the Shocker, who has two different alter egos in this one. It was Bryce
But it wasn't really an alter ego because the first guy died.
Well, yeah, so Bryce is the first one. The Irish dude took on that mantle first, has the shocking gauntlets. They give out vibration pulses, which was actually the remnants of a item that another villain, Crossbones, back there had, and they kind of retrofitted them to... Yeah, you don't know about that, sorry. Anyway, I think that was a really good way to bring the actual Shocker in. They had someone else kind of take it, and then they gave it to Herman Schultz, who is the Shocker in the comics.
Right.
Loved seeing him in there. And then, well, I'll talk about the other villain in a second that I want to talk about. He has a very small role, but this is what made this movie for me. The Vulture, though, hands down best Spider-Man villain of any movie.
He was so scary.
He was scary, intimidating, but you felt slightly bad for him because of his situation, why he became the Vulture. They did a great job because remember, he was going to be the construction guys that cleaned up after all the Avenger stuff.
Right, but he didn't have to go to a life of crime just because he lost his job.
Right.
How many people in America lose their job and don't go to a life of crime? A lot.
Well, you just don't know what I'd do on it.
I mean, I'm just saying.
I didn't lose my job. I'm just saying, like...
You think you're a vulture on the outside?
Okay. Anyway, but I thought that was also a good analogy, having him be a scavenger of junk as the Vulture. You see where they went with that? Anyway, I really love this Vulture. Michael Keaton did a fantastic job, and I'm so glad they did not kill him off. When I saw him go down in that explosion, I just thought, dadgummit, there goes another great one. Like, just killed Crossbones. I love Crossbones. But anyway, I just think...
Should I be worried that you like the villains so much?
I think they make the movie for me.
You like...
I'm evil.
Closet darkness?
Yeah. You just don't know that much about me.
Well, but I did. I agree. I like that he was in prison and then you saw your favorite guy.
Okay, so this will lead us into the end of this. The post-credit scenes, the first one you see mid-credits, Toomes is in jail. He's walking down the hall and we see a villain we got introduced to earlier, just for a short while, Mac Gargan, a.k.a. the Scorpion. This... I need a moment. Just continue without me.
So while he's flipping out, let's go back to Jessica's thoughts on post-credit scenes. They are stupid. Again.
I would rebuttal.
If you want to put a scene in a movie, put it in the movie. I don't need to stay for 20 minutes worth of credits. I am very happy that people made this movie, and I'm very happy that all your names are highlighted, because if that was my name, I would want it to be highlighted. I'm like super proud of y'all. But listen, I don't need to see it. I don't need to watch 10 minutes worth of credits and then to see 2 post-credit scenes. That's nuts. Go on.
This PSA brought to you by Jessica Reese-Loomis. Matt Gargan the Scorpion, to me, is my favorite villain. I grew up watching the Scorpion battle Spider-Man in the animated series of the 90s. Wanted him to be in this forever. And the fact that they brought him in and they didn't kill him off. They're building on him. They're probably...
And he was so quiet. He just had the tattoo.
They're not gonna... Well, that was kind of obvious, but like...
For somebody like me that's never read the comics or seen the shows, I wouldn't know what the Scorpion tattoo
I didn't even
meant.
see the tattoo. But
I
didn't see it, but what I heard first was Matt Gargan, and you just like... I was like, Jess...
This is no lie.
Like I was screaming in the theater. It's happening. It's really happening. I've not been this excited in a long time.
Screaming is not a correct term. You can go see a movie with Kyle and it'd be appropriate, but
so I'm so excited for where they're going with this. He references Friends on the Outside, so it's clearly a reference probably to the Sinister Six. Okay, and then there was the other post-credit scene with Captain America, which you just loved.
I mean, again,
I was being sarcastic.
That was a waste.
It was meant to be a waste.
I like Captain America. I like him in his movie. Stay in your movie!
He was trolling us for staying that long.
But he was in the movie earlier. Remember, he was on like the videos, the fitness video.
The school videos.
Like, stay in your movie. This is not your lane. Get out. That's how I feel.
All right, we have gone on and on about this stuff. You talked way too much about post-credit scenes, no plot development. That's weird. Let's go ahead and rate the movie. Let's give it 1 out of 5 MJs.
That's a weird...
Well, you choose a different one then.
I would have done spiderwebs.
No, that's so generic. 1 out of 5 MJs.
Well, I give it 4.
MJs. I give it 5 MJs. This is the best Spider-Man movie for me, hands down. I have a problem with some of the changes. I wish some other things had happened in this movie that didn't happen. But when you take the thing as a whole...
I mean...
It's not my number 1 movie of all time for superhero movies, but it is officially number 2.
Okay.
All right, so that's all our thoughts for Spider-Man Homecoming. We want to know what you guys think about it in the comments section below. Did you like it? Did you not like it? Are you just tired of all the non-plot development like Jessica said?
Or post-credit scenes. Please, if anybody else has a problem with post-credit scenes, please put a comment down below so that I know I'm not alone in the world.
Well, make sure you're following us on Facebook and Twitter as well. And what else should they do?
Please be sure to like and subscribe if you haven't already.
That's all we have for you guys tonight. But until next time, we'll see you real soon.
Bye.
Go ahead.
Well, either somebody just got shot and died, or there's fireworks on July 14th, 13th, 12th.
Somebody's Independence Day.
15th.
It's a little late, isn't it?
Yeah.